you see? Somehow the world that changed for me be so wonderful.
I love they kept the theme song as well. They kept the theme song. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. If you're not aware, the iCarly reboot has premiered and I am ready to give some opinions about it. I was a big fan of iCarly back when I was young. I was a tad old for the iCarly peak. I feel like I definitely fell off towards the last couple of seasons. I think I sort of just grew up, I got busy, but I still really loved the show iCarly. So I was cautiously optimistic about seeing the reboot announcement and that it was really happening. So in this video, I'm gonna sort of give a little background about the original iCarly and then the reboot, and then I'll give sort of a general review without including spoilers, tell you if it's worth watching. After that, I'll sort of go into discussing specific details for those of you that have watched or people that don't intend to watch at all, but I will give a spoiler alert, so watch out for that. So iCarly was a children's/teen TV show that aired on Nickelodeon from 2007 to 2012. It starred Miranda Cosgrove as Carly. Miranda Cosgrove was probably the most famous of the cast and was already an established comedic actor from School of Rock and Drake and Josh. It also starred Jerry Trainor, Jeanette McCurdy, and Nathan Kress. The general premise of iCarly is that Carly and her friends host a comedic web show on a weekly basis that is pretty popular in their world online. This show premiered in the very early rise of online content creators, and you can tell by the name iCarly, it was at a time where anything you wanted to sound techie or modern, you would put an I in front of, like iPods and iJustine. Honestly, Carly Shay was like an OG YouTuber in a way, even though she was a fictional character. It was still very early on in this world of online creation. So iCarly has been the latest victim of a reboot attempt. This time it's an exclusive for the new/rebranded streaming platform called Paramount Plus. The app has been trying a lot of reboots because they're trying to get people to use it. They know these franchises already come with built-in fan bases. They've tried to do new SpongeBob content, new Rugrats content, and new Drag Race content in addition to this new iCarly content. So the iCarly reboot was announced in December of 2020 and it was filmed during the winter spring of 2021. Why did I just say 2021? I mean 2021. The main controversy that this reboot faced, aside from typical skepticism from fans, was that Jeanette McCurdy, who played Carly's best friend Sam, did not agree to return to her role. She has been pretty vocal about the trauma that her acting career at Nickelodeon caused, so it's not surprising that she did not agree and she just doesn't feel on good terms or in a good place mentally to go back to this show. There was a faction of racist internet trolls that really took their frustration out about Sam not being in the show anymore on a new cast member, Lacey Mosley, a black actress that was cast in a main role for the reboot. People just assumed she was cast to replace Sam and used it as an excuse to send her racist hate. Both Lacey and the show iCarly had to put out statements condemning this vile hate, and the show hadn't even premiered yet, so fans did not know what to expect from this character. We'll discuss the new character later in the spoiler part of the video, but I have a lot to say about her. And this controversy was honestly very sad and unfortunate. I'm sad she had to deal with all of this. There seems to be another mysterious controversy with this reboot, and that is that one of the original writers that had signed on to the show actually left after the first episode or something due to creative differences with Miranda Cosgrove. There's not much information I could find in my research online about what this was about, but I do wonder if it was relating to the amount of mature content and the themes they would explore in the show, since a lot of these teen or kids show reboots seem to struggle a lot with what maturity level they want to go with for the reboot when their characters are now adults and can handle more adult content. I think generally audiences prefer the more adult content, but a lot of network execs, I guess, or whoever, they like to fight on that, and it's just give the fans what they want. Like, maturity levels seem to be such a contentious topic in these reboots. Like, it literally killed the Lizzie McGuire reboot, and it has greatly affected the Avatar reboot, kind of in an opposite way in that it seems like Netflix wants to up the maturity level on Avatar, but in this case, the reboot is about teens, so there's not necessarily a need to elevate the mature content. They're not playing adults, as far as we know. So it's interesting how both directions, the maturity level debate, can have a great effect on the show. So 3 episodes of the iCarly reboot dropped on June 17th. And they will be released weekly after this, according to all the sources I've seen. I've been wrong about this before, and they release in batches, but as far as I know, new episodes will be released weekly after June 17th. So let me get into my spoiler-free general review and let you know if it's worth watching. This reboot is actually really good. Like, really good. Oh my god. It's very much still a campy sitcom. Like, it has a laugh track. So if that's not your vibe, then I would not recommend it. If you don't like that type of comedy, I wouldn't recommend it. However, that is usually not my favorite type of comedy either. But there was just something really easy and really comforting about watching these 3 episodes. Yes, a lot of the jokes were pretty cheesy, but there were actually quite a few where I laughed out loud. Like, I don't expect that with this kind of campy sitcom comedy, but like, I laughed. And we'll get to my favorite parts that really made me laugh later in the video. So the main reason I think this is a successful reboot is that the writing is really on point. It's pretty self-aware, pretty sharp, and also, much to my surprise, like very in tune with internet culture today, very modern. They also made a really key decision on their maturity levels that I was talking about earlier, and they made their characters actual young adults. They're not Disney-fied, sexless parents like some other reboots that we've seen. They drink, they date, they have intimate relations, and real sort of failures of millennials. The bulk of iCarly fans that were kids and teens back when it was first airing are all now proper adults. So it makes a lot of sense for these reboots to lean into that and explore new sides of their characters in that way. And don't get me wrong, it's still like very family friendly, like not family friendly like for little children necessarily, but it's still family friendly the way like maybe, I guess like Friends or Seinfeld or The Nanny, those older sitcoms, I guess they're not like super family friendly. They have a lot of mature content, but you know what I mean? It's like lighthearted. It's like you can watch with your parents and not feel awkward about it. And I think that was really their goal. It's not like raunchy, but it's still not like squeaky clean Puritan Disney. It really doesn't make these adults like really raunchy or nasty or anything, but it makes them like really relatable, honestly. I believe she said she was 26. So I'm actually exactly Carly's age right now, 26, and I found her character very relatable. So this good writing didn't just happen in like a vacuum. Upon further research into the show, I noticed that it actually has a really diverse crew, and obviously we see a cast, but it has a diverse crew in the writer's room. So this is kind of a random fact that I was kind of shook to learn about, but episode 1 was directed by Phil Lewis. If you don't know who Phil Lewis is, that he is Mr. Mosby from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I did not know he was a director, but okay, work. I've seen some of the writers on Twitter promoting the reboot. I've seen Francesca Ramsey, I've seen Danny Fernandez, and Nasser Samara. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. The most famous of these writers is Francesca Ramsey. She has a pretty large online presence and a large resume, and she has played a big role in this reboot and mainly seems to be advocating a lot for the Black cast members, advocating a lot for Lazy Mosley's character, and it really shows. Like, for example, she talked about how they made sure to hire a Black stylist and have a black hairstylist on staff. A lot of black actresses have spoken out about how they've had very difficult experiences in Hollywood, either having to do their own hair or being at the mercy of hairstylists that did not know what they were doing. So this shows how important it is to have those people behind the scenes advocating for the cast members just as much as having representation on screen. And it leads to a better product. Like, the hairstyles we're seeing on the show are really cool. I'm not sure who the wardrobe stylist is, but I'm also enjoying a lot the fashion, the general styling of the show. I think Carly's style is really cool. It's kind of this like preppy but youthful millennial thing. I tried to sort of emulate it with my outfit today with this blazer and this little t-shirt, but she wears a lot of just like preppy sweaters. It's really cute. All in all, I say this reboot is definitely worthwhile, definitely worth your time, especially if you were a fan of the original. Even if you weren't and you enjoy some sort of like lighthearted campy comedy, I'd recommend it. But it's definitely probably the best reboot I've seen so far, and it's a bit of a low bar with reboots. I don't think I've seen any that are like I really personally love. I'm really excited to continue watching it weekly, see the future episodes, and just continue to support it. It still brings a ton of nostalgia with the way it references itself, and it's even self-aware about like the original iCarly. It makes some interesting commentary about it, but then it brings that new modern edge of a little more mature content, relatable millennial struggles, and a strong understanding of internet culture today. So now I'm gonna go ahead and move on to specifics about episodes 1 through 3. This is your official spoiler alert. I'm mostly going into these specifics for anyone that doesn't intend to watch at all. I'll try to give you some context, or if you're too much of a broke bee to add another streaming service to your monthly bill, I definitely understand. So I will let you know like the exact ways they brought in mature content. I spill all the tea about the first 3 episodes. I want to give you all the juicy details, and honestly I just want to discuss this with someone because there was a lot going on. I was like screaming. Okay, so I'll go ahead and give a quick synopsis of the first 3 episodes as a recap, or in case you haven't watched and don't intend to. So episode 1 is called I Start Over. All of the episodes start with I something. And this first episode serves as our introduction to where all of our characters' lives are now, what they're up to, and it sets the tone for the rest of the show. Carly lives with a roommate named Harper, who is played by Lacey Mosley, in the same building as her rich artist brother Spencer. In this episode, Carly is expecting her boyfriend to propose not marriage, but starting a online vlogging channel with her, but then ends up dumping her instead. And on top of it, she was secretly live streaming it because she thought it was going to be good news. So he basically dumps her in front of thousands and thousands of her followers. So Carly gets really depressed after this breakup and tries to like quickly move on with another guy. But then she just kind of realizes that she misses creating content and enlists Spencer and Freddie to help her bring back iCarly. So I want to talk about Freddie and his backstory, what he's up to now, because it's pretty interesting. As a kid, he was pretty nerdy and wholesome, but not so much in the reboot, it seems like. Freddie is back living with his mom after a failed tech startup and not 1 but 2 divorces. I kind of really appreciate that they included these failures as part of Freddie's story, because this is a good example of like maybe mature content that isn't necessarily raunchy at all or sexual in nature, but it is like kind of real that he has gone through these failures, and it makes him like an interesting character, a lot more interesting than when he was a kid, to be frank. Freddie has also adopted a snarky tween daughter named Millicent, who is a new character to the show. I really like how this show has added a child character to provide a Gen Z perspective on things, yet it doesn't center the child as the protagonist, and therefore it doesn't make the whole show juvenile. Disney reboots like Girl Meets World and Raven's Home have found some sort of like longevity and success but they centered children protagonists and forced the parents to the background as just sort of cringy characters. iCarly still very much centers the young adults that we are actually interested in relating to and learning about. So the other new character to the show is Harper. As I mentioned before, she is Carly's best friend and roommate. I think adding Harper was an excellent decision, and she is quickly one of my favorite characters. And it honestly feels very realistic for Carly to have a new best friend at 26 that is different from the best friend she had at 15 or however old she was in the original. Like, that's like real life. Like, you meet new people in high school, college, and after that you might even relate to more than the people you were in middle school with. So, like, the addition of her feels natural. It doesn't feel like, oh, she suddenly has a new best friend. It's, like, natural after 9 years to have new people in your life that you care about. And all in all, Harper is super cool. We very quickly learn that she is pansexual. It's also really cool because Lacey mostly is queer, and she says she relates a lot to Harper as a queer character. So it's great that we're getting queer representation on screen, but also the person playing her is queer as well. That's also another big problem in Hollywood that we see. Sometimes we get representation on screen and in characters, but then behind the scenes, they do not reflect the diversity of the characters. I honestly love this character because she is responsible for bringing in a lot of the mature content. She mentions a lot about her intimate life, sex, relationships, even like kinks. She references kinks a lot. She's kind of like very open about her sexuality in general, but not in a way that is like unfit for TV, in my opinion, at all. So it only took a few minutes into episode 1 for them to mention something mature, and I literally screamed when I heard it. Carly says to Harper,
"You must have parties because it's full of people of all genders that want to sleep with you."
yes! Yes, that is what we want. Like, I screamed, and it made me like 10 million times more excited for the show. I had seen that Jerry Trainer had said that he promised there would be sexual content or something, but I wouldn't believe it till I saw it, and I'm excited. They brought it in early to set the tone, let us know that this is not just like a squeaky clean reboot. It is for us millennials, it is relatable, and it is cool. I also really liked, starting with episode 1, they weren't afraid to poke fun at the original iCarly. There's one point where Carly's trying to explain her dad's job to a guy she's talking to. She's talking about how her dad's in the Air Force, but for some reason's on a submarine, and it's confusing. Like, it's very clearly referencing that the plot lines in the original were kind of hazy. And then the guy starts asking about her mom, and she's just like, because in the original iCarly, I feel like they never mentioned the mom. It's like Carly and Spencer's mom does not exist or something. I like that they're poking fun at the original sort of plot holes and just acknowledging that it's silly and we don't know what's up with Carly's mom. Next is episode 2. And this one is called I Hate Carly. This episode is all about Carly trying to deal with a hater. At the beginning of the episode, she notices that a hater from her original iCarly days is back and harassing her online again. So she decides to confront this hater once and for all. She attempts to meet up at Skybucks, which is a coffee shop, obviously in reference to Starbucks. But instead of finding the hater there, she meets a cute guy and starts talking to him. Right after they originally meet, the audience finds out that the cute guy is actually the hater. But Carly doesn't find out till way later in the episode after they've gone on a date, and he is hanging out at her apartment. He sort of admits that he has held a grudge since the original iCarly days because he had sent in a video submission that they rejected and did not put on the original iCarly show, which Carly was pretty nice about in the episode, and I was like, feels very entitled. Like, this guy's not entitled for the iCarly team to put him online to their huge platform. Like, what is he thinking? But Carly is very nice about it and is like, I'm gonna make things right now and feature you in my show now. I think because of how nice Carly was to the hater, this episode was not my favorite, but it did have some really funny moments that like really made me laugh, to be honest. And I liked how this showed like a sitcom-y take on a very real part of being an online celebrity, which is dealing with haters. You can tell the writers are aware of how integral that part of being an online influencer is. I also really like the scene where Carly and Millicent discover that the hater is in their apartment, because he goes to the bathroom and that's when they figure out he's the hater. And that whole scene was really, really funny. There was one joke where Carly's like, let's Michelle Obama him. You go low, I go high, to like attack him because they're like scared he's gonna attack them, which is a very real kind of fear for a hater online, you would think. That whole scene was really funny. I really liked it. Then we had episode 3, which was my favorite by far. Oh, so you thought Bo Burnham's Inside Netflix special was genius meta commentary on our crumbling society at the hands of social media and the internet? Well, think again. Try iCarly's episode 3, I Apologize. So I Apologize is an episode about Carly becoming a famous meme. The meme is a photo of herself disgusted by a meatball that she just spit out. And the background happens to have Spencer with his latest art sculpture. So Carly and Harper really try to capitalize quickly on this meme before it blows over. But the popularity of the meme starts to hurt Spencer's art career, because people assume that Carly's disgusted face is at his art in the background, not at the meatball she is spitting out. But because Carly knows that she didn't make the face at the sculpture, she sort of gives him like a half-hearted non-apology, something they call a faux apology, which really hurts Spencer's feelings. In order to get revenge, Spencer revamps his whole art exhibit to be a full critique of social media culture, which then leads to an outrage from social media influencers that try to get Spencer canceled for critiquing their careers and lifestyles. This episode was written by Nasser Samara, and I just really want to say that because I want to give credit where credit is due. I think it was like an amazingly written episode. I know it was kind of a joke, but I do find it similar to Bo Burnham's dark commentary about internet culture and how it's affecting society. It's just sort of a sitcom version of that commentary. This episode is packed with nuanced references to social media culture that I just really appreciated as someone that is online often and analyzing internet trends often. There's like discussions about being problematic and being canceled, the fleeting opportunities that come with viral fame, the hypocrisy within influencer culture, even possible consequences of public antinatalism, which I'd never had thought about. It's also extremely like self-aware and trying to make little references to our world. There's one point where Millicent is saying that maybe in the future Carly's meme will be deemed problematic or offensive and get her canceled. She says something along the lines of like, maybe in the future no one will be allowed to spit because of a worldwide pandemic. Freddie responds in a dramatic way like, that'll never happen. And it's a very like tongue-in-cheek reference to the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, in this world, there is no acknowledgement of COVID or pandemic. So their world does not have that part of society yet or ever. Some other favorite moments from this episode were Spencer made this single Pringle piece in his art show, which was really funny. Like, I think that's a really deep cut of like Twitter culture. Spencer had the ASMR community come out to protest his show, and it was funny because they kept like whispering instead of yelling. There was this really like self-involved influencer girl, and I loved when she was posing in the I Am Basic wings. So this episode also shows a really strong self-awareness for Miranda Cosgrove's popular meme that is her holding the Coke can in front of the computer saying, interesting. And while the characters are having a discussion about being famous from a meme, Carly recreates the interesting meme unknowingly, but it's clearly a reference to the popular meme and was intentional, which this recreation has actually gone viral again as sort of a then versus now trend on social media. And it's all just so meta. I love it. Also in this episode, at one point, Carly said bitch. She said the word bitch, which, yes! So of course every show must have its faults, so I'll give y'all my little critiques I had. So as I mentioned before, I don't love the laugh track. I think that's kind of a personal choice, and I think it's not in fashion anymore, kind of. So it was a little surprising to hear the laugh track, but also maybe the show would have felt too unfamiliar without it. I'm not sure. It's like, it's fine, I can deal with it, and the show is definitely good enough to keep watching, so but I just wanted to mention that as like, it's a little much, a little extra for me. So another small critique is like a plot related one, and it's pretty minor and an issue with a lot of these shows, but I find it so strange that like Harper and Carly live in this very fancy apartment in Spencer's building. This is Seattle, where iCarly takes place, so you know the rent is really high on this apartment, and Harper works at Starbucks essentially, and Carly doesn't seem to have a job. I guess she's just an influencer. Maybe she gets brand deals. She doesn't seem to have a day job or anything like that. And the final minor critique I have, and this is really minor, but something I noticed, is that all 3 episodes ended really abruptly to the credits. Like, it cut to the credits right after the last line, like immediately. And it was a little like, oh, it's over, like so quick. Usually you have like a breath of like some action or funny moment to breathe on and then cut to credits. So this is a pretty high quality show. If these are the the petty critiques I had to muster up for it. Like, overall, I'm really pleased with this reboot, and I'm excited for future episodes. Literally, Carly is a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race in the show. She mentions it by name. It's like relatable. I like that it's inclusive, and yeah, these characters are just kind of real and raw while still being campy. They drink, they have sex, they have financial struggles. Like, it's adult themed still, without losing sort of a whimsical, fun campiness either. Hilary Duff is probably cursing at her TV watching this iCarly reboot, because this is all we wanted for Lizzie McGuire. Like, it doesn't have to be this like dark and sexy show. Like, it could still be funny and silly, but it can also be relatable. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I don't think Hilary Duff is watching this, but I'm sure if she did, she would approve of it. So let me know what you think of the iCarly reboot. Have you watched it yet? Have you not? Do you intend to? I would love to know in the comments below. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos twice a week, usually about pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!